I absolutely love Skyrim. It is a game that every single winter I have a Skyrim phase. So you know those games that you have phases with, like that 2 weeks every year that you just need to play Minecraft. You play Minecraft for like a week or two, and then you just don't touch it for a whole year. That is what Skyrim is for me.
Hmm.
Except it's multiple times per year, and yeah, Skyrim is very, very much up there, and I am including all of base game Skyrim as well as mods. And I know that's kind of unfair, but if Skyrim wasn't such a good game in the first place, we wouldn't have this big of a modding scene for it. And so at this point, I consider mods as practically part of the Skyrim base game experience. Skyrim is so endlessly replayable. I have the map of Skyrim pretty much memorized. Like if you were to pull up a map of the map of Skyrim, I could name probably 95% of the locations, and I say that with utmost confidence.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you had no conflict with Dark Souls?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, Skyrim and Dark Souls came out the same year. You didn't have like any conflict of interest, or did you play those games totally separately from years?
Totally separately. I played Skyrim in early 2012, like a month after it, or 2 months after it came out. I played Dark Souls the first time in 2015 after my roommate told me.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I was way late to the Dark Souls party. I had a roommate who was like, I mean, you saw my video. Roommate was just like, "Hey, you really like Skyrim?" I was like, "Yeah, I love medieval RPGs. You know, another medieval RPG you'll totally love." This is a disclaimer, not a disclaimer, but a confession. My first playthrough of Dark Souls, I had to play with two mods. One to make the game playable because I only had a PC at the time. And did you ever play the Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition port for PC?
I believe I have it.
It was borderline unplayable.
Yeah, I had to download that mod for what was it called?
DS1 Fix, I think.
Yeah, that's
or DS Fix.
Yeah, that's what I had to download in order to play it.
Yeah, I had to have that to even be able to play it, so I wouldn't consider that a mod. But then I had a second mod that had like sarcastic messages for every time I died, just so I could laugh instead of getting frustrated.
You know, I'm not the biggest fan of mods, but one mod that has me interested is one thing that I've always wanted in the From Software game, something that I wish that New Game Plus would at least offer as an option, and that's randomizing items. And I can only experience that on PC.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll go with mods. Going back to Skyrim. So yeah, Skyrim, I loved the base game. I played it for hours and hours. I probably have like maybe a couple hundred hours on the base game, but I have thousands and thousands. I think I have like, let me pull up my Steam here. Skyrim. So new Skyrim, the old Skyrim, I have 1,675 hours, with probably about 100 of hours of that being on base game. And then new Skyrim, I have 1,408 hours.
Wow.
So altogether, about 3,000 hours on Skyrim, with about 100 of those being in the base game. Skyrim was just such a great experience with adventures and that real feeling of being lost. One of the first games that I ever experienced where I felt like I was lost in real life, but blissfully lost. Where you're just like, I don't know where I'm going, and I don't care. I'll find something cool to do. Skyrim was just so magical for a game with dragons and spells tends to be pretty magical, but like the experience of Skyrim for the first time, as I say in my video, I am afraid to answer what I would give to experience Skyrim for the first time, because I don't know if I would like the answer to that question. It is a game that if I could have my mind wiped and I do not ever remember playing through it, I would fall in love with it right on over again, because wow.
Yeah, I remember when let's see, I'm trying to remember. Okay, so Skyrim, I think I bought Dark Souls and Skyrim around the same time, and I believe I was playing I was swapping back and forth. I think I eventually finished Skyrim, and I went to GameStop and I went ahead and traded it in because I just I don't know. Dark Souls just won over so much more for me, and the GameStop employee was just totally shocked that I was trading in Skyrim, a game that just came out. And he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I got Dark Souls, and I just prefer that more." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "I just find it a lot more satisfying. I just prefer its design a lot more." And he's like, "Dude, Skyrim's like the best game ever made. Why? I mean, I can't trade this in." I'm like, "Well, I do, and I am."
Yeah, I see the games for their merits both ways. Dark Souls is wonderful. Skyrim is wonderful.
Oh yeah. I won't go into my dislikes about Skyrim. I'll just push that for another time. And but I eventually bought Skyrim again. I bought I think the upgrade for the PS4, and let's just say it just didn't really go that well. Still, maybe I need to go back and revisit and see if I can organically adjust the difficulty, and maybe I can enjoy it more. Since you played Skyrim significantly more than I have, is there any kind of organic adjustments that would make the game interesting for me?
I think the quote-unquote most organic adjustment you can do is artificial adjustment, and that is through mods. Which I then, of course, would recommend getting it on PC for. But yeah, Skyrim, I think, as far as challenge runs go, the most you're probably going to get is a speed run of Skyrim for challenging things you can do. But and I'm sure you could possibly come up with some things. I mean, playing on legendary difficulty, even though I bash it all the time, I still find myself enjoying how much you have to kind of really engage with more of the mechanics of the game. You have to be like, oh, resistance potions are actually worth something now, because taking in normal adept difficulty, taking a 25% frost resistance potion, okay, cool, 25% less of 10 damage is 2 damage, but then crank it up to legendary where that frost damage is now doing 30% 30 damage per second instead of 10 damage per second, and 25% of that's like 8 damage per second you're mitigating. Okay. And so yeah, resistances become a lot more valuable. I do still think legendary has its problems and whatnot, but ultimately, if you want to find a really good tailored experience to really go, oh, this is what people people love Skyrim for, and you haven't been able to hit it off with the main game, I absolutely would recommend just slapping a mod list in there. There's a lot of mod lists that focus some on difficulty, some on completely overhauling the game. As I made the joke in my video, you can play Skyrim Souls Zero Dawn Sekiro Born if you want to, and yeah, there's some games that just completely and utterly overhaul combat. My favorite mod of all time, the perk mod Ordinator, I think is enough to already make it so you can crank the game to master, which is the second highest difficulty, and then play with Ordinator, and you will have a significantly better time because of how much more RPG Skyrim starts to feel like, where you're actually building a character instead of just, oh yeah, I grabbed the sword and I slapped a couple points into do more sword damage, and now I do more sword damage. Yay! Playing with this Ordinator perk mod, it drastically changes how you approach the game. It's no more just flat upgrades and just, okay, you're gonna still swing a sword, you're just gonna do it harder, or you're gonna get minor bonuses for things you do with your sword. Your choice of weapon now matters. Axes are really good at causing burst damage, where they have a perk in Ordinator that makes it so that you attack when you attack something, you apply a bleed to it. Okay, so it's just a very small bleed. However, any damage you dealt during that bleed gets echoed by a percentage. So you normal attack them, apply the bleed, then slap on every last one of your power attacks, every poison, every big amount of damage you can do in that 15, I think it goes 15, 20, 25% damage echoed. All of a sudden, chunks their health bar, and you're like, oh, that feels good. And so that's what axes do. Maces are the anti-armor item where it doesn't matter if you're smacking a dragon or smacking someone in leather armor, you're gonna do the most consistent damage because you are reducing armor by ridiculous amounts. Like in the base game, it's like, oh, 10%, 20% armor reduction. With the mod, it's like 200, 400, 600 armor reduction. Because armor stats are weird in Skyrim. But essentially, you're doing pretty much true damage with everything you do. So you will do the most consistent damage with a mace. And then a sword is the most defensive, where every time you hit somebody with it, it reduces their attack damage by like 10%. And as long as you're attacking them, it keeps them dealing less damage. I think it was like 10, 15, 20% or something like that. So they're kind of the duelist weapon. You want to apply the damage reduction to individual targets and then single them out and duel them with your advantage of dealing more damage to them, and then pick your next target, duel them down, pick your next target, duel them down. And so that makes it different. Playing a mage is completely, it's in a different galaxy relative to vanilla Skyrim. Vanilla Skyrim's mages are like, cool, I guess you can cast some spells. They have some slightly different effects, but nothing really earth-shattering. But then under Ordinator, all three of the schools of magic have a very unique identity where you feel, okay, this is, I wanted to play a pyromancer and now the entire battlefield is on fire. That is what I wanted to be when I picked a pyromancer. I didn't just want to cast fire spells as well as I cast ice spells. I wanted to be able to set the battlefield entirely on fire and my enemies burn down to nothing but ash. Playing a frost mage is pretty much the CC powerhouse mage, where it's like, yeah, I don't do nearly as much damage as a pyromancer, but I'm also never going to take damage because melees cannot get close to me, because the amount of slows and paralysis and all of the crowd control you can spread as a cryomancer is just ridiculous. And then the electromancer playing as like a shock mage is sort of a balance between the two, where you'll get some crowd control and you have a very ebb and flow play style where you'll get these buffs based on how many spell casts you've done that will give you a huge spike in damage, and then you drop back down and then spike back up and then drop back down and spike back up. And so that's kind of how they all differentiate themselves, where you're really investing in learning how to play a specific type of mage differently. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I could legitimately rant at you about Ordinator probably for the next like 5 hours, so I'm not going to do that to you.
Well, perhaps maybe my dislike for Skyrim is just the lack of information and the potential of Skyrim, because I tried it that a few years ago when I bought the upgrade for PS4, and I walked into a cave and I just did pitiful damage, and I just I was like, you know what, I'm not feeling it. I'm getting sleepy after 30 minutes. I think I just need to find that one thing in Skyrim that's going to motivate me to play and just keep playing. Because there's something that I feel like I'm doing something wrong where I'm just losing interest after 30 minutes.
Yeah, I honest to goodness think that if you couldn't find the base game interesting, especially since it sounds like you're a bit of a connoisseur of role-playing in just RPG elements in games, I absolutely think you will love the Ordinator perk mod. I can send you a link after this, just as a DM, just so you can look at it and read over all the perk trees, and you'll kind of realize, oh, this really brings out. And you can also watch the video that I made about it.
Okay.
Marketing.
There you go. Yeah, I'll have to look at that one.
Yeah, give that a watch, and I think you'll kind of you'll be like, oh, that looks like Skyrim, but actually fun.
I would have to, before I do that, I would have to, my gaming PC needs a lot of work.
Mm,
It's pretty old. It needs a new motherboard. It cannot support a new RAM that I bought for it because it causes it to crash randomly. So I just need
mm,
a brand new motherboard, just so I can run properly. That whole
mm,
RAM situation sucked. It just randomly crashing. I was worried about the podcast, about it randomly crashing in the middle of one, and I had to end up just
mm.
putting the old RAM in it, and that's what it currently has now.
How much is the old RAM? Skyrim's relatively old, and if you're just running with that gameplay mod, it shouldn't cause any issues.
Right now I only have 8 GB of RAM.
Oh, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like right now, you would be a okay. Skyrim is a piece of ancient history. I'm pretty sure the caveman used to play Skyrim on the cave walls.
There you go.
And yeah, Skyrim. I think even like special edition needs like a maximum of like 4 gigs of RAM. So yeah, you'll be a okay if you get a chance to try it. But I cannot recommend that enough to you. I think you will really have a blast with it. But yeah, that was my number 2 option was Skyrim.